Hey guys, this is a tutorial about the navigation. I mean, how to navigate from one page to another page. Um, I'm gonna use in a live demo and by using the best practices from the very beginning to show all of this stuff. All right, let's get started. First, let me give you a big picture. So this is the application we are gonna produce. So this is a very simple JavaFX application. As you see, it has two regions. The left side here, we have the navigations, menus, or here I use the buttons. And on the right side, we will have the content of every task or use cases that user can do. So when we click on this show content one, so the content one will be appeared. When we click on uh, show content two buttons, the content two will be appeared. You see? So this is very simple application, and the main goal is to transfer the main idea. So definitely these contents can be a very complicated, let's say, form, yeah, or data entry forms or a report, whatever, right? As you see, I put two buttons here on the navigation or let's say menu bar or menu region here, and I have one button here. So why I did this? Because as we see in a few minutes, they have different meaning, different purposes. So here you see we can navigate and change these contents, and even with this button we can change the content. Okay, so this is the big picture of whatever we want to produce. So let's start from the very beginning. Uh, we create a new project. Okay, and the project is JavaFX project. And let's name it something like, for example, JavaFX um, navigation. This is the navigation demo. Okay, so the rest of that I think is good. Next. Uh, these are good too. Okay, so this is important. Its type is desktop. The package name, let's call it application. The language, I'm gonna use the scene builder, so the FXML, and also the root type of the layout pane. I'm gonna use HBox, why HBox? Because I have two regions, the navigation part and the main content. So this is it looks like an H box to me. So this is the left child, this is the right child, but you can start with any design that you would like. Okay, so in this tutorial, I am gonna use the simplest, the most simple, layout and everything. So because I'm gonna focus only on the navigation part. So the rest of the application should be as simple as possible. Okay. So the file name, okay, so this sample, I don't like that. I would like to call it main, and the controller definitely will be the main controller. Okay, so let's create that. All right. And let's see, everything is fine here. Yeah, main controller, application CSS, and main fxml. Okay, so at the beginning, let me run it to make sure that it will run. Yes, so this shows that the application is created correctly. Okay, so let me start with the um, creating the right folders and right packages, because as I said, I would like to use the best practices. So as you see, all of this stuff, I mean the main Java, the starter point, and the controller, and the CSS and the fxml, all of them are created inside the application package. So this is not the best practice, of course. So let me create a new package. Uh, I would like to call it controller to put all of my controllers. Okay, so this controller will move to the controller. Okay, and also the main is, yeah, it's located here under the application is good, but the application CSS and fxml, these are not the right places, right? Okay, so where are the right places for those stuff? The best practice would be to create another folder called resources. Resources. Okay, so these are important. The names are important. Resources, where it created it here outside of the source. Okay, so that's a very important thing. Outside of the source. So it is a sibling of the source inside the root of your project. Okay, so inside the sources, I would like to create another folder for my all of the fxml. So I go to new and folder, uh, let's call it view, and I put all of my fxmls. So I move this fxml here inside the view. Okay. And what else? Yeah, we need to create another one for all of the CSSs. If you have more than one CSS, that's the best practice to have the CSSs here. And we move the CSSs here as well. Okay, so now we are in the good structure for our project, but let's run the project and see whether it works or not. So this is my console, and I run the project, and I see this location is required. What location is this guy calling? Let me put the I mean open the files. Okay, so when you read this, it is complaining about the main 14 is here. So what is the problem here? It cannot find the main fxml because we moved it. So in this way, it is looking for that inside. I mean, the same folder of the main, but it doesn't exist there. We move it here. So this is the first problem we have. Uh, the rest of that, let's see. Yeah, we have no problem with the rest of that. So first, let me fix this one. Okay, to fix this problem, since the resources are outside the source, we need to introduce it to Eclipse. Hey, just consider the resources as the source files. How can we do that? Yeah, we can go to the build path configuration build path, and then inside the sources, as you see, only the source src is inside the build path. We need to add these guys as well, so resources. Okay, no problem. Add folder, and we go here, and you see here resources here. We would say, hey, add the resources to my build path as well. So now this SRC and resources, both of them are in the build path. Okay, so apply and close. And could we solve the problem? Probably not. Yeah, let me run it again. Yeah, we will see exactly the same thing because even though the sources is inside the build path, but main fxml is not in the root of the resources. We need to specify the view as well. And here is how we can do that. So we would say, hey, look at the subfolder view and main. You can find main over there. And we will have the same problem with the application CSS as well. So I would say, okay, you can find it in the CSS application CSS, right? Okay, now let's run it again. Again, it cannot find that because here, if you look at this, you would see that to find the main fxml, we use the get class dot get resource and then this guy, right? But this works when the file is inside the source folder here. If it is outside the source folder, then you would need to add another thing here. So you just dot get class loader, this guy. So you need to add this class loader method here to be able to read anything outside of the source. Okay, so we would need to add this guy to the CSS and any other, when you want to read anything outside the source, you need to add this get class loader as well. Okay, now let's run our application. Okay, so now what is the problem? Class not found here. Now it is complaining that, hey, the inside the main fxml, the class is not found. What class? The main controller, because we move it to somewhere else as well. Okay, so to fix this problem, we need to uh, read. Let me open the main fxml by scene builder, and I will show you where the problems is happening. So here, this is the main fxml. Here we mention that where to find the main controller. Okay, so it is inside the application, but you remember that inside the application we create a controller uh, package. So the main controller now exists here. Okay, so this is the fully qualified name of the controller. After this, we can save, and we can let me put it somewhere else. Okay, and if you go inside here, you see that now application controller main controller. All right, so for this to be effective, we need to clean the project. Anytime you change the fxml file, you need to clean the code. Now it should run. Let me see. And as you see, the project now is working. Okay, cool. Now, let's start with designing our application. You remember that what is our goal? We want to create two regions. This is an H box. So I have one region here and one region here. Okay, so the H box is already there here. And for those two boxes, let's put one anchor pane. Oh, okay. First of all, um, we need to. So we don't have anything here, right? Okay. So how can we appear that the the size? So the prefer width and the prefer height. So I would make it very simple. So 600 by 400, um, something like that. Now it appears here. Okay, so I would need two regions, right? On the left side, I would like to create the simplest pane, which is Anchor pane. So I put the Anchor pane here, and it is 200. Yeah, that's perfect. That's the one that I really want. So 200. Entire of this was 600, so we have 400 here for our content. For the content, let's put another, I don't know, we can create an anchor pane. We can create something else. Probably the most easiest one will be the anchor pane. So the anchor pane is easy because you can put all of the nodes wherever you like very quickly. Okay, so uh, this is our main page. All right, and just remember that your content pane is 400 by 400, and your navigation part is 200 by 400. Okay, so let's look at our mockup. We would need two buttons here, show content 1, show content 2. Okay, so I would need two button here. Here the button. As you see, you can drag and drop it wherever that you like this. So this is the beauty of and simplicity of the Anchor pane. Okay, so let's write it as show content number 1, and let me copy and paste, and let's put it here, and let's create it show content number 2. Okay, when we compare this with this, we'll see that we would need to change the background of these two, the navigation region to make it a little bit more, recognizable. So this is uh, I mean the navigation region. Um, I can say here in the style part, in the properties, I would say, hey, change the background color to, okay, what color is this? Probably cyan. Okay, so this is another uh, tip that you can uh, use in your code. Oops. Uh, we have is, let's say, JavaFX. Yeah, exactly. Color references. color references. And if you go here and yeah, here we have all of the colors references. So that color probably is this guy. You can use the keyword, or you can use the code. Okay, probably this works better. Okay, and where is my design here? Okay, so I copy and paste this, and as you see, it affects immediately. Yeah, we are good here. And let me save it and go to the code. Yeah, we can have the code like this. And yeah, clean the project one more time. Clean. And let's run it and see how my application looks like. Okay, so the size is not the one that we created. And what is the reason? Yeah, the reason is because in the main, we are saying 400 and 400, even though in an fxml we said, hey, make it 600 and 400. You see here, the pref height is 400, the pref width is 600, but this guy will overcome. And yeah, just guess what? We can remove that. Okay, and now let me run the application one more time. There we go. So the size is good now. Okay. Now we need to design our content part. Okay. So as this mockup shows, we will have three contents. Content one, content two, and when we go navigate from here, it goes to content three. Okay, so let's start with content one. Uh, I would say, okay, save as. I can save as, or maybe it's easier to start from the new. Okay, um, let's save it as content one, and by default it is uh, saving in the right place. Content one. Save. So the content one, as you see here in our mockup or prototype, it's 400 by 400, and it should be a anchor pane. So why it is an anchor pane? As you see here, I created it as an anchor pane, right? Then we want to plug it in this anchor pane, right? Okay, so the anchor pane, and its size should be 400 by 400 to be able to um, plug it in here. And also its color, you see the content number one, it has a label here, and its color is probably cyan. No problem. So the properties and the background color will be for sure. Let me look at these references again. It should be, yeah, this guy, cyan. Okay, so this is the background color, and also I have a label. Okay, so let me create a label here. We don't care about the exact that it should be exactly uh, look like our prototype here because we just want to transfer the idea, okay? But we need to create its font a little bit bigger. The type of the font is fine. We don't care about that. Let's make it for the 8 probably is good. Okay, so the content, let's call it content uh, number 1 and make it a little bit bigger to be able to show it everything. And so this is the content number 1. What else we need? We need a button here. Go to content number 3. So this is a button. We put it here and its content is go to content number 3. Okay. All right. So this is our content 1 uh, fxml or let's say the page. Okay, let me save it. We still need to do some other stuff. So we need to program this go to content buttons. But for now, it is good. Okay. How about the content number 2? It's exactly a copy of that, but the different color and different label text. Okay, so for this reason, I would say, hey, save this guy as content 2, save, and so this is the content 2. We just need to change this guy to 2, and also we don't have any uh, key here, I mean the button, and also the different color. So what color is this? Let's see. It's a crazy call. Yeah, probably this guy. So we would copy this and change this. Oh, not this one, this one. And yeah, there we go. Okay, so we save it. And also, what is the content number 3 is the same thing but different color. No problem. We save as this as the content 3. Content 3. And just change this to 3. And the color, it looks khaki to me. Let's see. It's gold. Yeah, it looks like this guy, khaki. And we are um, good here. So, yes. So we designed our all of the contents, but we are not done yet. Okay, so we need to plug in uh, as this guy is showing when we click on the this button, this content should be plugged in inside where? Inside here. Okay. Before going further, let me tell you that this anchor pane, which is this portion, is not really needed because this anchor pane uh, will be this guy, which is an anchor pane, right? We can actually put an anchor pane inside another anchor pane, but that's waste of the resources. So we can get rid of this one. So just delete that, and just keep in your mind that the root the root pane is an H box, and the first child is an anchor pane, and the second child, which is this portion, is gonna be another anchor pane, which is content number one. Okay, with this in your mind, now let's put an action on this button. How can we do that? I just pick that and then go to the code here, and on action we need to specify a method that will be run when we click on that button. Just name it show content one, and usually I put an op, which is abbreviation of operation, and in this way I can distinguish the methods that are going to be run by for an operation, right? Or in other words, it's a piece of code that is attached to a button like this. Okay, so and let me and we can do that for this one as well. So show content content to up. All right, and now we save it. Okay, okay, now inside the code, when we go here, we see that on action show content 1 and show content 2 are here, but since these methods does not exist in the controller, which is this guy, so it is complaining, but no problem, we can fix that. So control 1, and we can say, hey, add this guy into the control 1. I'm sorry, control the main controller, and same way here. And when we see the control main controller, we see that two methods, show content 1 and show content 2 is here. Okay, now it's time to load the anchor pane, I mean this page, inside this page here. Okay, how can we do that? We just need to get this HBox, and then we need to load this page and just add this page inside this HBox. Okay, how can we do that? First of all, we would need the HBox object. So this HBox object should be accessible inside this main controller. How can we do that? Very easy. We just go here, and we need to give it a name here. Okay, so let's call it main box, and save it here. And when we go to main fxml, and it is complaining again, it's giving you a warning that, hey, main box does not exist in the controller. No problem, control 1, and then you can add this here. And as you see, the HBox, whose name is main box, is added inside this controller. Okay, so our job now is to implement this method in such a way that when that button is clicked, then the the FXML file will be read, and uh, a new anchor pane object will be created, and then it will be inserted inside inside the main here in the main fxml. Okay, so how can we do that? First, we would need to read this guy, so the content one. First, we create a URL from that, so this way, URL equal to, okay, so you saw how we can read fxml like this, right? You see, we can use the fxml loader, and we can and this portion is actually the URL that I am talking about. So we can do the same thing here. So here we can say get class, and then we need to call the get class loader, as I explained before, this guy. And then we can say get resource in this way. And then we give the path to the content one, which we know that it is view / and its name is content one fxml. Okay, so in this way we can create the URL to that fxml file. We need to add actually, so be careful here, is the java.net, this URL. Okay, so now our job is to read the this file, this fxml file, and convert it to an anchor pane. We already know that its type is anchor pane, right? So in this way, we would say, hey, anchor pane, uh, let's call it pane 1, for example, equal to, and fxml loader, we can say load this guy, and we pass the URL as you see here. But we have two problems here. First, we need to um, import the, let me see, and core, yeah, so it needs a E here, and then we need to import it first. And another problem we have, there would be some IO exception here. Again, control 1, we can say, hey, surround it with try and catch. Since this is a severe problem, if it cannot find this fxml file, it is a severe problem, then we would need to catch it and do something immediately. The problem here we have, we read this fxml file content one, but we would need to cast it to make sure that it is anchor pane. Okay, so now everything is fine. Okay, so now our job is to get the children of this HBox, which is our root pane manager or layout manager. We need to get its children, and then add this pane one inside that. All right. Okay, so how can we do that? So we would say, because we already have this main box here, and we already know that there is a bound between this object and this object here. So this H box that we have here, right? Okay, so here we would say main box get children. So up to this point, we got the array list of the children of the main box. Okay, we just need to add, and then our node will be the pane one this way. Let me run this and see whether there is any problem here or not. Since we made many changes inside the fxml files, so just remember any changes on fxml, you need to clean your code and recompile the code, okay? So this is the application is running, so this guy, and you will see that the content will be add here. Okay, so how about the show content 2? Right now there is no program for this. Let's make a program for that one as well. Uh, Pretty much is the same thing. Uh, I just want to save some time. Control and paste here. Okay, so here let's call it pane 2, and this guy will be pane content 2. And what else we need to change? Of course, this pane 2. Okay, so the problem we have here, if we add this pane 2 to the same main box, what would happen? We already added a child here. So look at this. So this is the child number 0. This is child number 1, but the child 0 is already pre-inserted, right? But the child 1 is, we just added it here. When we click on the this button, child 1 will be added here, right? So if we add again another pane here, like we did in this method, this will be the child number 2. So 0, 1, 2, and most likely it mess up our code. Let's see how it works. Okay, here. So this is content number 1. The content number 2, here you see it is inserted here. So how can we fix this? We need to remove the previous child, okay? And then we add this new children. Okay, we should make sure that the child number 1 exists first. So we will put a control here. We would say, hey, if main box get children, so this is the array, right? And we can check its size is, let's say, equal to 2 or probably more than 1. So if it is more than 1, it means that the child 0 and child 1, both of them exist. In that case, we need to remove that guy. So we would say main box get children, and then we can say remove, and the index would be number 1. So before inserting a new child, we remove the previous one by this simple code, and then we add panel 2. Okay, so for sure, I am gonna add this control here as well. So remember that this is defensive programming. All right, so now let's run our code. Okay, so content 1, content 2. Now everything is working fine. We have another button here that we need to program it as well. So we want to, when we click on this, the content number 3 should be, loaded here. Okay, so how can we do that? And why I separated it here? Well, I could put this button here, but there is a big difference. And I'm gonna explain that shortly. To attach a piece of code to this button, we have some other problems that we need to fix. To remind you about the best practice to implement the MVC, we learned that every page needs to have a controller. Okay. For the page number 1, we have this button and this label. For content number 2 or page number 2, we just have a label. It's so simple, right? Okay, so since there is no operation on this content or on this page, we don't need a controller for this. But for this, intentionally, I put this button that to show you that if we have an independent controller for a content, how should we operate? Okay, so we need to create a controller for the content number 1. And how it looks like, it's just the controller. We go here and we just add a new class, right? And its name can be content 1 controller and finish. Okay, all right. So this content 1 controller need to be added inside the here inside the code. We need to add this controller here. Okay, and this name should be fully qualified. It means we would need the root package, which is application, and the sub package controller, and the name of the class. Another thing that we need here is to put a name of the method here. Okay, so we already know how to do that. So on action, we would say go to content 3. And as I said, I usually put an OP here to show that it is an operation. Okay, so for this guy, we are almost done. We just save it. Okay, and what else we have here? So we go to the content 1 here, and it is uh, complaining that this method does not exist in the controller. As you see here, the controller has been added here, right? So now content 1 page has its own controller, which is the best practice as we explained before. So we just add it here and we go to the content 1. As you see, this method has been added. Okay. Okay, so now we have the problem that I need to explain here. The code should be, something like the same thing we have here. I just copy and paste it here. But the problem now appear itself. Okay, so now what's the problem here? The main box. Where is the main box here? So in this controller, main controller, we knew that there is a main box here that is bound to this page, right? Because we mentioned the main controller name here. So there is a bound between the controller and this whole page, right? But we don't have that in other controllers. That's the point. That's the important point that I want to explain here. So since we don't have this main box in other controller, we need to pass the reference to this box to other controllers. In other words, we need to share this reference between not only the content one controller, if the other contents have their own controllers, then we need to share this main box. How can we do that? One technique that you can do that is creating a new class whose job is just sharing the all of the data that you want to share between the controllers. This is the best practice actually, I found so far based on my experience. Okay, so how can we do that? It's very easy. Just let's call it, for example, common object or something. We can put it inside the under the application. So new, we create a class. Let's call it common objects, for example, something like that. Objects. Yeah. So one more time, its job is we put all of the references that we want to share between many controllers here. Okay, so how can we access to this object? So just remember that these common objects should be instantiated only once because we don't want to mess up the references. We just want to have only one reference of the objects that we want to share. So definitely we need to apply the singleton design pattern for these common objects. So, and we already know how to do that. Very easily we can apply that. So first of all, we would need a private static common objects, a reference to itself, right? Let's call it common objects equal to new common objects this way. And so we create a private static, and this will be our instance, right? Okay, so the second step is to make the constructor as the private. And what else we need? We need some getters and setters for this guy. So Alt Shift, you can go here and say, hey, add for me the common objects, getters and setters. Okay, so this class up to this point is a singleton. We know that if we instantiate it once, we can use it many times, but we didn't mention where we can access the reference for this object. The way that we do is we create a public static method whose job is just return, and usually we call it get instance, and its job is just to return this method, this guy. Okay, and what is the issue here? Misspelled. Okay, so up to this point, this is a singleton design pattern, and we are sure that only one and only one instance of this class will be instantiated. Okay, so now our job is to share this hbox. Okay, so we create Control C and here. And here we can create private this hbox. Okay, and okay, so these common objects, yeah, we don't need them. We need to create the getter and setter for this guy, right? Okay, Alt S and the getters and setters and the main box this way. Okay, so now let's review what's happening. We created these common objects for storing a reference of the main box, and its job is to be referenced and to be shared between all of the controllers. And the main box is not the only one that we need for this application, which is very simple application. We are doing this, technique, and we are sharing only the main box, right? For the other applications that can be more complicated, then you would need to share many of these objects like this, right? So here we just mentioning and focusing only to transfer the main idea, but for other applications definitely you would need to share many other things. All right. Okay, so now the question is, how can we instantiate it here? That's another very good question. As you see here, this H box was loaded here, and this is actually the main box. Actually, to show that it's a main box, and I can refactor it to main box. This way, the code is more readable. And before leaving this, we can set a reference of this H box into our common objects here, right? So how can we do that? We need a reference of the common objects here. So we would say common objects. And how can we get an instance of that common objects? Since it is a singleton and it is a static, so just say common objects get instance. Yeah. So up to this point, we have an instance of the common objects, right? And we just need to set the common objects, the main box, that reference. We can refresh it by this main box that we have before leaving the main class. So we would say, hey, common objects set the main box with the main box here. Okay, so I'm gonna put a note here. So we keep a reference of the main box inside the common objects. Now we can access to this main box anywhere like this one. Okay, so the content controller now, I would say here, inside here, I would say H box, main box. Okay, so I would need a reference of the common objects here. So common objects get instance. So we can make it actually private this way. Okay, so you can do this for every class that needs a reference of that main box. You create a reference to the common objects, and then easily you can get that main box from the common object. So common objects get main box here. Okay, and then we would need to add this H box inside the import. And we are done here. You see here? So we have a reference of the main box here, and then the same portion of the code will work. Okay, so this is gonna be the content number 3. Let me call it content 3, and this is gonna be content 3, and here this is gonna be content 3. Okay, so it looks like we are done. Let's run our code and see how it works. So here, content 1, content 2, and content 3. All right. Okay. So looks like we are done, and I try to uh, give you the main idea how the navigation between different pages are done in JavaFX, and also I try to introduce a technique how to share common objects between all of the controllers. In the next step, I want to tell you another very cool thing here. So as you see, when we run the application, we don't load anything, but in some cases in your application, you need to load something by default. Okay, let's say that at the startup of the application, we need to load the content 1. So how can we do that? You need to remember something. Here, when we are loading the main fxml, which is this guy, and when we load it here, then automatically whatever we mentioned in the main fxml as the controller class, it will be run by the framework, which is JavaFX behind the scene. So if you look at this main fxml, and if you go at the end of here, and you see here, we said that, hey, this page should be bound by the main controller. So when we run or when we load this main fxml, that controller will be instantiated by the fxml. Okay, so up to this point, we know that this guy will be instantiated. But how can we load the content 1 here? That's very easy. The only thing that you need to know, when this main controller will be instantiated by the JavaFX, one method will be run automatically, and that method is called initialize. So it should be a public void and initialize. Okay, and we need a annotation fxml here to show that this is a fxml method. Okay, so how can we put the content 1 here? It's easy again. We just need to call this guy. We already know that this this method will load the content 1 in the appropriate place. So if we just call this guy, we are done, right? Okay, so let's see how it works now. You see here, when we run the application, the content 1 will be loaded automatically, and it doesn't affect the rest of the application. Okay, so I'm gonna stop here. See you guys in the next tutorial.